Hey guys, welcome to the podcast where I, Coach Mike Payton, invite other coaches on, I interview them, I ask them questions, I hopefully get to learn things from them, and I hope you guys will learn something along the way. Let's get right into the podcast.
I will drink gas station coffee on a road trip, which maybe it's not the best plan, I might have to every once in a while it backfires and I end up having to stop off at a rest stop or something because it's not good quality and tears me up. But I'll drink it all. But if I go to somewhere that has good coffee or they have a good roast or a good bean, or I'm traveling or something, I usually try and get something that's more like an espresso or something. So a cortado is hey, it's not going to be as strong as an espresso shot, but it's you're going to be able to appreciate the flavor of the bean and the coffee. Yeah. And I like bold flavors. I drink a lot of just black coffee anyways.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Really?
So that's where I'm at. It's not as much as a latte, and it doesn't have any flavorings or syrups in it, but it's a little bit more to sip on too than just plain espresso.
Yeah, because espresso is just the shot, and it's
I'm about to be wired though. I tell you what.
Yeah.
I've been trying to wean off caffeine a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just for my
enabler.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I was thinking the same thing the other day. I was man, I gotta stop drinking so much coffee because I have class at 8:30 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I'll have a coffee then, and then it gets after that, and I'm man, I gotta have something else because I work the rest of the day. So it's man,
dude,
I gotta stop.
It's real. Yeah, I worked basically some odds and end jobs throughout the end of college and grad school, where I worked at a CrossFit gym where I was cleaning for a student membership. So I'd go in 2 or 3 times a week usually and clean at night.
That's kind of cool.
To be able to get a membership. And then that kind of transitioned and fell into a place where I was able to actually be brought on as a coach and start coaching there. So then sometimes I would coach, depending on when the schedule was or the shifts and all that, but a 5 a.m. class. And then I also worked at a joint PT kind of OT clinic.
Oh, really?
And they had a fitness center. So I would open the fitness center for people who wanted to come in as fitness members, but then the PT and OT department would kind of trickle in or whatever. So I'd have to be there and open the doors at 5 a.m. So that's when my caffeine addiction started, because I was in grad school and then I'm waking up at 4 something in the morning and either trying to work out or train or go do whatever XYZ job I had, and then it's dude, you finished that and it's 8 a.m. and you got to get to your 9 a.m. class. And it's well, I'm almost ready for round 2.
Yeah.
Someone else just woke up 30 minutes ago, but I'm ready for a second round of caffeine or whatever to take me through my morning classes until who knows what's next. So that's
facts.
Yeah,
that's so relatable.
I'm a big caffeine guy. I think it is a powerful stimulant for good reasons. Right? I'm trying to wean off. But that's all right.
Yeah, I was maybe I'll wait till spring break and I have a week off, so it's maybe I'll try then. Odds are it won't work out.
It's okay. Yeah. I find myself even on days where now I have a little bit more of a routine, a schedule, and, after school and all that. But on a Saturday, sometimes I love just brewing a pot of coffee and just sipping on coffee in the morning and just amping myself up, and I'm cleaning the house or
facts though.
So still slightly addicted.
Yeah. Did you just graduate from PT school?
So I've been out for basically a little over 2.5 years.
Oh, 2.5 years.
So
okay.
Yeah. So I've been practicing a little bit. I mean, that's by no means a long time. Long enough to be I don't feel as super fresh anymore. I still have moments where I'm in the clinic where I'm it happens. I think that's a reality check to an extent.
I believe it.
It's normal to have that if hopefully I'm trying to have the right mindset moving forward, a growth mindset, to be able to have things happen and I'm oh crap, this is new, or this is different, or maybe I'm responding to it differently than I have in the past. So I graduated. I'm from Ohio originally. So I grew up in Delphus, small place in Northwest Ohio, near Lima.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that, up that way.
I'm aware of those places. I never heard of them.
Van Wert, Findlay's further north. Finley, so I went to Findlay for school, University of Findlay. Yeah. They have like some awesome like graduate level programs there. They have like a PA program. They have the DPT, which is what I ended up doing. They have a PharmD. They have some of that stuff like in the health sciences field and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I was able to go there, and then I graduated in, oh man, what would that have been? That 2021, I think. Yeah. Would that make sense or no?
That would be about 2 years.
Yeah. So
3 years.
We finished like our didactic work at the beginning of like 21, and then we went out on clinicals. So I like walked, I think it was like May of 21, where it's like, hey, yeah, we graduated, woohoo, like, you know, and like got that feeling that you put in all the work for. But then we all had to go out, and we had one final like 3-month rotation. We didn't technically finish until like July of that summer. So then that puts me somewhere, I think, about 2.5 years out, like practicing fully.
Yeah.
So
not counting clinical.
yeah. So
yeah, that's cool. I have so I'm in the PTA program, not the
Where's that at?
Over at Edison. So it's just like 15, 20 minutes from here. Solid program so far, I think. But
is it 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
2-year program, and but they'll do like a clinical over the summer in between the 2 years. So it's like 2 straight years of school, and it's like, man.
Yeah, that's how grad school is in a lot of places. So ours was like that too. So it was like year round. So like even if you're not in clinical, you're taking classes over the summer in some way, shape, or form. And like I was in school when COVID was a thing.
Right.
So I don't really know if you're gonna get like flagged for me saying that on YouTube. Okay, the pandemic. So the pandemic happened. I don't know if you want me to look at the camera either.
I mean, like you can look at the camera. Like everybody always asks that because it's like we're like talking to each other. I wish I had like another camera, like,
so it could get a different like frame,
different angle,
different reference. Okay, I can look at the camera a little bit.
That's for future me. You can look at it every once in a while. Like you want to make a point to the people.
Yeah. So pandemic happened when I was in grad school, so it kind of messed up the quote unquote typical like way that our program was set up. So I did like my first year of school. It's 3 years of grad school. It's basically year round, like what you're saying in your program too. So I did like my first year, and then I went on a clinical, and then we came back for the second year, and we were working through that, and then like typically you do basically a second year, and then you go on another clinical. Well, it was spring semester of second year, like, you know, that like right after spring break actually, like March-ish, when all the crap hit the fan. And so we had to like do some stuff online, and then typically we were supposed to go on a clinical that summer. But with like how everything was, they didn't want to take students, and then all of that. So we had to rework our program to be able to accommodate the changes with that. So then we just moved more didactic work up, and then we went straight through, and at the end we had to do 3 clinicals in a row.
Wow.
So it was like from January through July, it was just like all clinicals of that very last year. So
was that like pretty intense then?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I'm not going to take away from it, because like, I mean, you know, it requires work, right? And I think one of the cool things is that when you're in a program like that, you can really make it as hard as you want it to be. And that sounds weird. I say that because I think you can get as much out of it as you want. You know, you can be the person who, you know, scrapes by, whether it's because you're just not putting in the effort, or you're not as passionate about it as you thought, or maybe it's like that's just where you're at, like, you know, with your time and your investment. You know, maybe you have to work multiple jobs to be able to support going to school. So I know, like, I had a couple of classmates who, like, they worked a lot, and, you know, it was harder for them to be able to have the time to study and stuff too. So like perspective is huge. And then also it's like, you know, some people just chose, maybe it's like, hey, I just need, you know, good grades and I'll get the degree. So they don't put in the same amount of effort that they might be able to, or they don't do some of the extracurriculars, or they don't seek the internships or different things like that, you know? So I think you can make it as challenging as you want and get the most out of it. Like it's tough. It's grad school, or it's like it's a program that's setting you up to be a specialized provider where you're taking care of people, and they're putting their trust in you.
Right.
So like you want to get as much out of it as you can. You want to take it serious, but it's different for everyone, and I understand that. Like everyone's got a different walk of life that they're going through as it happens. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, like you get your degree, you get your certificate, like whatever we want to call it, you pass your licensing, you're certified. Like that's what people care about, and that means that, you know, you got the skill set to be able to help them. And certain employees and stuff don't really know and or even want to ask, like, what grades did you get, like stuff like that, which I think good and bad both ways. But
I was thinking about that, like, because I've noticed, like, I was talking to some of the second year students, and I was like, they were talking about like their grades or whatever, and I was like, you guys aren't just like trying to soak everything in, like you don't want to just absorb all of this. Like that's like boggles my mind.
Right.
But yeah, it's like you said, you can get as much out of it as you want. Like you've got your professors there who are like there to educate, and like it's up to you to ask them questions. Like they're not just gonna feed it to you all the time.
Do you want to go to their office hours, or if you're having issues with a certain subject or topic, or you just want more clarity, or you want to ask someone like, hey, how did you get to the position you're in today, so that you can start laying that foundation, right? So there's definitely a lot of like avenues, and you know, that's why like higher education I think is a good thing. It's not right for everyone, but in general, like I think if you go into it with the right mindset, you can start to like lay these paths in your career, if that's what you want to do, right? Like to kind of have these like end goals, or like set up these mini like, hey, this is what I want to do in 5 years, 10 years. Or like if you want to get into academia, teach or be a professor, you know, like, hey, how did you get there? You know, because you can't just be like, okay, I graduate and then all of a sudden I'm a professor. And if you could do that, like, who's gonna believe you or listen to you? Like, it's like, I was like, I've seen no one in the clinic, but I'm really smart and I'm here and I'm going to teach you how to read this textbook. It's like you want the real world application.
So. You want someone with like the clinical experience, especially with a program like any kind of medical program.
For sure.
Like,
or even you know, firefighters and ENT and you want your people to have the hands-on experience.
Straight facts.
And I think you can't replace just putting the time in. And like that just speaks for itself. You can have good mentors and you can do all those things, and I think it makes a world of a difference, and it can help like speed up the process of like learning and having to like think like critically, especially if you're in like a hands-on like kind of service where you're serving someone or helping them. But just like part of it's just reps and it's just time. So, how are you like managing the program? Because like this is as cool for me to be able to sit down and hang out with you. Like I mean, I appreciate it so much because I don't even really know you that well. But like, how are you handling that? Because you're super busy. Like you're in the program, but then I see you here at the gym all the time, and like you're either training and doing some of your own stuff, or you're training individuals and then also doing taekwondo, right? So I mean, I guess like tell me more about that.
It's good. It's been a learning curve, that's for sure. Because I was like, originally my plan was just to pursue personal training and just be like, and I was like, it'd be cool to do some kind of physical therapy, like combine the two. And my fiance was actually the one who was like, no, I think you should do it. Okay. And I'm glad she did, because then I got into the program. I like shadowed Dr. Luke, because I had to shadow either PT or PTA. And I was like, hey, Dr. Luke, can I shadow you? So that's how I got to know like Training Nation.
And convenience is cool when it's like, I mean, we're here and we're able to like set up shop. It was help
so
people
cool.
in the same building. So.
Right. And so started it last fall, or this past fall, and it's been good. It's been a learning curve because of like the balance of I gotta study, gotta go to class, gotta like do all the businessy. I gotta sleep too.
Gotta sleep. That's one of those things. Sometimes it's like falls into like, like when you're in school, you have like a short-term goal. So I know a couple years is not necessarily like short-term, but in the long scheme of things, it is, right? But it might not fall into like 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be like 5th on the list.
It's like where's that priority?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you prioritizing?
Right. And your own like nutrition and like also training yourself and stuff too.
Great
like
facts.
Yeah, balancing that.
It's so hard. But I have a lot of great mentors. Like I learned a lot, like so much from watching Dr. Luke do his stuff that I took into what I do now. And then like people like Will, great mentors, just especially coaching me on like the business side of things, because the way that Empower does their personal training is that you basically are a business owner.
Kind of like an independent contractor.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool.
That's exactly
cool.
what it is.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, because I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, so
I
it's
just
like
see all you guys in here, and I know
business, school, balancing it all out. It's good.
That's
cool.
So how long have you been doing personal training then? You started there before, obviously, you just got into the PTA program.
So I got my. So I was a missionary for 2 years. So I served. I had graduated high school, did a year of college. Cool. Was a missionary for 2 years. Wow. Came back, but before I left to be a missionary, I got my certification for personal training, and it's got like a 2-year expiration. Like you have to get your continuing education.
CEUs.
Yeah. And so I had to I hadn't had any clients because I was on mission, doing missionary work.
Right.
And so came back, and I was like, what the heck do I want to do? And then I walked through the door of Empower, and Will looked at me and he goes, you want a job here? I was like, sure.
Man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
had you been coming here for did you train here already?
Oh yeah, I've known Will for 12 years.
Okay, sweet.
So I was
when that was through like martial arts, and Taekwondo, as you were coming up with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
you're what degree of a?
The fourth degree.
Fourth degree.
Yeah,
Black
been doing that for 12 years.
Dude, that's sweet.
That's
awesome.
Time.
I'm super I got a mad respect for all of that. I grew up wrestling.
Oh yeah.
But I will say I'm very oblivious to what it entails. I don't want to disrespect it. I know it's awesome, but I don't even I just know black belt's awesome, and then there's degrees to it, and then so basically you could probably kill me and no one would ever find me again if I disappear after this podcast.
Yeah, it's on recording.
This is my last cortado. My last coffee.
That's why I asked you what your favorite was.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Okay, so you've known Will for a long
12
time.
years, yeah, long time. So, it's good stuff.
And then you walked in and he was like, "Hey, do you want a job?"
Want a job.
And then, so that kind of came to that. Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
Yeah.
22. Yeah, dude, you've done a lot for 22. That's pretty cool.
Where
did you do? Where did you serve? When you were doing your missionary work?
It was in the United States. So I did. I was part of a missionary group who their main focus is youth ministry, and so I traveled around in a 15-passenger van with 12 other young adults.
Oh, cool.
Traveled around and did youth ministry.
Just all over the country, basically. Or?
Pretty much. We were mostly Illinois, Georgia, and then everywhere sprinkled in between.
In between. Okay. That's cool.
It was good stuff.
For 2 years?
2 years, yep.
Okay. Did you ever have periods of time off? Were you able to come back? Is it, this area is home for you though? Mm-hmm. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Piqua. So.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Just north of here, not too far. Okay.
Not too far. And then what was the other thing you asked? It was
where you where you served, or
where
did you get time off?
Oh yeah, time off. That's what it was. Then we have.
I asked a lot of questions at once. I got to work on that.
It's okay. Christmas break, we usually get 2-3 weeks off, and then we had the whole summer off. So a school year kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Is that something that you feel looking back on, you're super grateful for that experience, or you feel it was impacted the person that you are today,
100%.
or your kind of purpose moving forward?
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay. I think if I had done what I'm doing now before that, I would not have been able to do it. I wouldn't have even thought about being able to do it. School, work, Taekwondo, and then having to travel to Illinois and all that.
Right.
So I don't think I would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
But it kind of doing difficult things. It's with training and all kinds of stuff. Doing difficult things really puts other things into perspective. I think you do something really difficult, then everything that used to be difficult that was easy, it's like easy, piece of cake.
Yeah. So again, like perspective too is like huge. And then I feel like super inspired by so many people too, like especially that I get to like come across with, like working with individuals too and clients, like in this realm of like performance therapy, just hearing people's journeys or like seeing people like post-operative or you know, people who have been in like chronic pain, and you work with someone, and then as much as you're trying to help them physically, right, as a, you know, like physical therapist or a like PTA, physical therapy assistant, like that's kind of built in, right? It's so much more than that. You know, it's like they talk about the biopsychosocial model and like all these different aspects of even just like pain, and like, dude, it's nuts. And like you probably already know a lot about it. You're probably gonna learn more about it. And if you don't, like just keep learning more about it. It's just like it's so, everything is just so complex and it's so like multifactorial. But basically, like getting back to it, like sometimes I just have this huge like reality check where it's easy to just like get in your own head and you're like, man, like, you know, this isn't ideal with my day, this isn't ideal with my life, or like, you know, this is tough, this is a struggle. And then sometimes you'll like talk with someone and then you gotta just like, you know, you start talking about their, let's just say it's a knee, right? You start talking about their knee, and then all of a sudden you start talking just about everything. And even if it's in the same session or just over the course of, you know, multiple weeks, you just learn more about them or just like their whole experience and like how they got there. And like some people have been through like some stuff, right? Like they've been through some shit, and like it just gives you perspective. Like sometimes I'm like, dude, like I got no reason to complain,
right?
Like like even all the hardships in my life, like I'm not gonna say that they're not, that I didn't think they were hard, like they were, right? But like that is nothing compared to like what that person just told me they went through, or that they've been feeling for the past 15 years, or they had this super traumatic experience in their past when they were young, or you know, it's like that was out of their control, and it's basically like lived with them to this point. And you know, whether it comes up because of the current reason they're having, or it's just, you know, we built a relationship that's made them feel comfortable to like share that and express that. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I have it so good, you know. Like I think everybody deserves a time and a place to like feel what they're going through.
Absolutely,
or like, you know, it doesn't mean it doesn't justify that your stuff isn't hard, right? But when I get those experiences, I can see it. Like if I have a period of time where I can sit back and reflect and just like think to myself, or whether it's on like a run or like a lifting session, or maybe like I've been trying to get into like cold plunges and stuff, like just when your mind like wanders and you can reflect, or journaling, things like that. And I'm like, you know, like I got it pretty good. And like having like positive affirmations and things like that too is like just shapes like the hardships moving forward.
Puts things into perspective, and it's always good to like reflect on it too, like because I think we tend to get caught up in like our day to day and like the stress of right now, and it's like let me take a second and reflect on like where I am now. I saw this thing one time. It was like you 5 years ago, like you would be jealous of where you are right now. I was like, that just right there puts things into perspective. You just think about it, but you have to think about it. It's like, where am I right now? You know?
And then even if for some odd reason something were to happen and you kind of think of where you're at compared to 5 years ago, and if it's not like you're not happy with the result, just think about how much has changed. Or like looking forward, it's like, okay, like that's going to give me the drive, that's going to give you the drive for the next 5 years, so that when you can look back, you can be like I did the thing, or like, you know, like I am proud to say, look how far I've come,
right?
Or like, and that's part of it too, because I mean, there's ups and downs and everything that you go about in life, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your relationships, your faith, you know, like just however you want to look at it, there's a lot that you can improve upon or shape, or even like, I don't know why the word like manifest is coming to mind. Like, you know, I believe, you know, like I'm a faith-based individual person, but like I do think that there's a time and a place where you gotta like put in an effort towards something 100%. Too, right? It's not just gonna like happen. And like things can just happen, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, you can start to really, really think about the person that you want to be or what you want to get out of something if you start to take these moments of like reflection. So, you know, it's like as much as you want to get stuck in the day to day or look forward to this big like end goal, right? It's like, yeah, you got to take it day by day by day to get there. 100%. But I think also like taking the time to reflect and like think about that too is just, yeah. I'd say this says a lot about a person. Like if you're taking the time to think about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Whether it's like journaling or like just like something that I found really helpful is like if you like pray at the beginning of the day. Yeah. I usually couple that with journaling and like, dude, like that right there, just that'll put things into perspective for you. Like it's I don't know, it's cool. Like you're saying, like the reflecting on it, just you can't learn anything if you're not reflecting on it. Right. You know? So.
And it just sets the day, like, you know, if you start your day, like in your example, you know, like in the Word or doing something, it's gonna just like give you positive momentum and like a little win throughout the rest of the day, right? Or like in the back of your head, like you're just gonna be thinking to yourself, like, you know, like it's kind of a part of a bigger plan, right? Like leaning not on your own understanding, but you know, like trusting like in God in that instance too. Yeah. Or like, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I know other individuals have different faiths or just like on a different journey of that too. But like it kind of gives you almost like a sense of like ease as well as you're working through this day to day, which has periods of time in life that are like really freaking hard. And like it's a struggle, man. So, you know, like when you're going to school and you're doing all this and you're working and you're trying to like build a brand and you're trying to invest into other people, which takes energy and takes emotion. Right. Like knowing that like you can reflect back on something like that or like lean into that and just be like, dude, just take it. Like I'm here. Yeah. Like it gives you almost like momentum to get through some of these hard times. Oh, absolutely. Versus just like day in, day out, like grind. Like that can tear you up. Oh, that can weigh you down too. If you don't have, you know, like a higher purpose or like a cause or like, you know, these visions or end goals. So yeah, that's something I need to get better at is like starting my day with that and like starting, I think with giving out like more positivity and energy to other people too, like in the day. I don't know, like, have you ever heard of Gaige Rassman? You ever heard of him? No. Okay, he's like a pretty well-known entrepreneur. He's got like a strong following. He does like the MDK, I think, project it's called, Modern Day Knights. He's big about just like creating like strong, like I'm gonna say like quote unquote men, but like strong men and families and relationships to be able to like be the kind of person that you want to be, basically. But he has this like a pretty large following. He started a lot of like successful businesses and he's a successful entrepreneur, like very much like self-made, not to the point where he's, you know, like condescending and arrogant, you know, when I say self-made, but like, you know, he was like an immigrant who came to the country and he faced a lot of emotional stuff when he was younger. And he says this and it's like, I don't know him. Like this is just someone like I was like I'm just like, dude, podcasts, right? Like stuff on like social media. I feel like I'm in that generation. So like I'm saying it like, dude, I talked to him yesterday. I did not. This is all stuff that like I've just got like from his story that I've heard like when he's talked to other people or like done stuff on his own podcast. But kind of getting back to that, like, you know, this dude is basically just like he talks about like his morning routine and like all these different things. And one of his, like a part of his morning routine is putting out like positive affirmations. So I think he'll do like gratitude texts or something like that, where I think he'll like maybe pick 3 people every morning that like when he's going through his morning routine and reflecting on like getting ready for the day and reflecting on, he'll like send 3 messages out to 3 different people telling them that he's, you know, like appreciative of them for their time or like being in their like in his life, or maybe it was a mentor from, you know, a period of time ago or someone he hasn't connected with. I think at one point he had done that, but I think about that stuff and like, you know, look at these successful people, but then also like, how can I maybe couple that with something, you know, to strengthen like my faith and, you know, like who I'm trying to be through Christ, which I feel like is a journey for sure. You know, I try and work on it, but I know I'm far from being able to actually say that I'm doing a good job. You know, and I'm critical of myself, but like truthfully, like I need to find ways to be better in that. So it's like the more I can maybe start my day, like you said, you do that with journaling. Maybe that's like a good practice
by any means.
Yeah, I know. But you know, it's like, what are these people doing who have had success in their lives, or you know, like whatever you want to call success too. Like success for some people is making money. You know, success for some people is having like a brand or something that they stand behind that people are excited about. Success for some people is maybe nobody knows them, but they're living like their best life, and they're trying to make every conversation they have with people meaningful, right? And they're going to bed at night and they're like hitting the pillow and they sleep really good because they feel like they've like done good with their day, you know? So it's like, what can we take away from people like that? You know, like I think like one of the best examples is, I mean, like in the Bible, like when you're reading that and you're reading the word, you're kind of learning and reading about someone who lived like, you know, the greatest example of life that you could live. Yeah. So it's like if you're going to talk about a successful like entrepreneur, a successful person, or someone successful to like, brand. Yeah, right. I mean, that's about as good as it gets, like over the test of time through generation to generation. Like so now that I think about that, just came like full circle. So maybe there's a really good reason to like tap into that.
Yeah. 100%. A brand that lasts 2,000 years.
Yeah. I would say that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Like, yeah, just having that perspective of like having that as an example of like you're saying, like that positive outlook. And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier about the like gratitude.
Yeah.
Like what was it, practicing gratitude or something like that?
Yeah, like there's gratitude practices and like affirmation and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Gratitude like, journals, people will do that. Like, hey, this is what I'm, you know, grateful for in my life. Or like, these are the people I'm grateful for. These are the, like, hey, I'm grateful for this hardship I went through to get here. Like different forms of it.
That's huge. That's like super huge in like the, one, like, reducing like a lot of anxiety. I think people get so anxious because like they're constantly thinking of all the negative things that are happening. It's like, let's just like take a second and appreciate the good things, because especially like in our culture, it's just like a lot of negativity. You get your news feed, Instagram, Facebook, like all that, and it's just all this negative stuff.
It's so overwhelming too. And I think we're kind of the first generation who it's coming like full circle, where like we have a constant ability to be able to consume or be surrounded by it. Like you always have like, you know, your phones, you always have tablets, you always have your computers, you always have TV, you always have these different forms of stuff to consume. And then a lot of the times, like wherever you go, it's on in the background.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you can kind of choose when to pick and consume certain things for sure. But to an extent, like our generation, like where we're going, like sometimes it's even there when you're not choosing to, like, you know what I mean? Like you go to a restaurant or like wherever, and maybe there's something on the TV about politics or, you know, some stuff that's going on. And as much as that stuff can be important and should be important to an extent, like it's also like draining when it's constantly just like this and this and this, and like here's a mass shooting, or like here's this, you know what I mean? Like that stuff is like, dude, it like takes a piece of your soul and like it just grabs on and almost doesn't want to give it back, or like it tugs on it, and like it's hard, it's heavy. And like we're in that generation, dude, where like we grew up a little bit without it, like not as much as maybe our parents' generation, but we, you know, I remember there's a time where like I had a flip phone at a relatively early age, but a flip phone is not a smartphone. It's not an iPad. And you know, I use it to make calls, or like if my parents, you know, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddy like 2 blocks down the road, you know, and they needed to call me to tell me to come home for dinner, or you know, things like that. And it's very different. Like, and then when you have stuff on your phone, now you have these apps and you have stuff, and it's like, can we send you notifications? And you're constantly connected. And it's like ding, 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 ding. And we're almost like conditioned to be able to like expect something. Or like, I guarantee there's probably like some kind of study out there where, let's just say, you know, Bob, who works at, you know, some, I don't know, marketing agency or whatever, he it's Friday at like 6 p.m. and he hears a ding, and it's a familiar ding that tells him that he just got an email like I bet his like heart rate spikes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like you get anxious, or it's like, man, like you're never able to like disconnect and get away from that. So as much as there is like you're saying, like the negativity and all that, it's like we're just so connected to a point. It can be beneficial. Like hopefully like something like this is able to be, you know, received in a way that someone gains value from it, right? But at the same time, when it's always there and it's always something you're grabbing onto, or if you're surrounded by the stuff that is negative and it's just like it's there, it's like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta take a step back. Just take a step back and breathe. Even if like you're saying, like there's good stuff online, like podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts
for sure.
And like,
what are some of your favorites,
dude? I've been into this podcast called Mind Pump.
I've heard, yeah.
And it's like these 3 trainers. They've been they train people for like 20 plus years.
Yeah, that's a good podcast. I can't remember, like I know it. I think I've listened to some episodes. It's just not one of like my core rotations, but that's a good podcast to listen to.
That's like one that I've been like just listening to all the time. There was another podcast that I had listened to for a while. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that's the main one right now. Yeah. And I'll find other things on YouTube.
Yeah. Audiobooks? Are you into that? Or
no,
I mean, you got textbooks and stuff at this point.
I gotta read those. I gotta read those textbooks. But I don't know, anything that I can find that's like, I have the way that I study is that I like to just be immersed in it, so that like it just is an everyday part of my life, because then I'll remember it better, and then I don't have to worry about it. So like, that's why I love pairing like my personal training with the PTA program, because literally doing that, I'm immersed in it.
Yep, and you can put different pieces of it into like use.
Oh yeah.
You know, maybe even same day or like same week or same module or whatever you want to say. And like when you put it into use, like it sticks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or you can see like, you know, practically you hear it and you're like, man, that sounds like that would work really well for, you know, gym. I'm going to try something like that for gym. We're going to try some isometrics.
Right. Yeah.
You try it, and then maybe even in theory, you're like, dude, heck yeah. Like his knee is like this is going to be amazing. You know, we're going to get his knee stronger. His tendon's going to get stronger. And he's going to be able to lunge deeper.
Right.
And then like you try it, and like maybe it goes well. And like those are the instances. But also like, shoot, I dosed it completely wrong.
Yeah.
And then now like, you know, Jim couldn't get up the stairs for the next 2 days. So when he came back, you know, this week, he told me last week was not a good week. And it's because he was too sore.
Exactly.
Or like, you know, painful or something. So that's cool. Yeah, like pairing it up. I like that.
Oh yeah. Like, and like just we've been.
You gotta live it. You gotta live it day to day.
Yeah. So I try to find podcasts and things that kind of do that. But yeah, that's the only one off the top of my head.
Okay. So sweet. I'm all over the place. I got all kinds of stuff I listen to. Nothing out of the, you know, I'm not special. I feel like I fall into this realm of what a lot of people like trendy are listening to. So I mean, like I went through my Huberman phase.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the one
like,
that I was.
Yeah, I mean he's great. Like, don't get me wrong, but
pretty good.
I would say I was listening to him a couple years ago. So maybe on the earlier side of some of that, like as he was like just starting his podcast and like getting some stuff out and like really starting to be more of like a public figure. So I really like his stuff and I listen to him. Like Nick Bear, have you ever heard of him? BPN.
The name sounds familiar.
He has Bear Performance Nutrition. It's like a supplement company. Okay. Yeah, they're based out of like Texas. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's an ex like Ranger, Army Ranger. Okay. And he's awesome. He's like a super inspirational guy. Nice. So like he has a really good podcast, which is cool. And he brings on a lot of good guests too. And so he'll talk about right now, like he's recently been like more of a hybrid athlete, quote unquote.
Okay.
So, you know, he's done some really fast marathons. I think he ran a sub 240 marathon, which is, I don't know off the top of my head. And like I kind of run and have been getting into it more, but like I'm not a runner by any means. I want to say it's pretty close to like a 6-minute mile for the whole 26.2. Wow. So like he's ran fast and he's done Ironmans and he's also like done some like bodybuilding competitions and like he's strong. Like he's a beast.
I think maybe one of my students sent me his way.
Yeah, I'll show you like after this for sure. But he's got an awesome like little podcast that he does, and recently he's very like organic and like true to himself, and like even over the past like couple years he's like been even more true to himself, which allows him to express on his platform like who he is and like what he's gone through. But he talks about the journey and like how they've basically built kind of from the ground up out of his apartment and stuff. But like, dude, I love those kinds of things. It's one of my favorite type of content to consume because it's so relatable. I don't know if it's like because sometimes I need a break from how dense certain types of things that we are interested in can be, right? So I mean, like when you're studying for an exam, or you're listening to like Huberman, or you're listening to like Mind Pump, and maybe they're talking about like different ways that they like, like a research study, or like how they train someone, or like you need to stop doing this, like, you know, this is the most evidence-based way to train for like plyometrics, and, you know, all that. It's like it's like intense. Like you could sit there and like journal and like and like, you know, on your phone or whatever. Or like, you know, rewind, you know, 15 seconds at a time. You're like, I gotta listen to that again. Like I've done that. Sometimes I just like listening to real people talk, and you're like, hey, like as cool as he looks on Instagram or social media, or as successful as he is or she is, or their brand is, like at the end of the day, they're also like people. So I like hearing that, and it makes me sort of like get invested into them, which sounds weird saying that.
No, it makes
sense. But like that's how people get excited about someone's like mission and purpose too. It's like, you know, why do you always buy from this supplement company? Like Brandon. So like Brandon loves Axe and Sledge. Right? And like, dude, he's like an Axe and Sledge junkie. But like he likes who they are and what they stand for and their products and like the people. And so that's something that he like enjoys. And so because of that, he's consuming their content, he's consuming their products, and he's getting results, and, you know, all of this and this, and then he's telling someone else about it, and then maybe they, you know, look more into it. But like, you know, like he's not like, that's why he's loyal to them, because he's found passion in who they are, like, you know, enjoys them as a person or a brand or a people, you know. And they put out good stuff as well too, so they have quality behind it, so that like gives someone that investment. And so like I find myself doing that now a lot too, where I will listen to these people and like I just want to hear like who they are. You know, and as much as I love listening to, you know, let's just I'm gonna try and think of something off the top of my head. Like there's different like prep podcasts out there for different types of like studying. So like when you go to take your boards, like I guarantee, I don't know this for like PTA, but for like the NPTE, which is like the National Physical Therapy Examination, like there's people who have made a living by basically curating podcasts chunked into like concepts of studying and like, you know what I mean? And like you can consume that, and maybe it's, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of a chunk. And it's like, hey, we're going to talk about, let's say adhesive capsulitis, which is frozen shoulder, right? And then you're going to listen to this 10 to 15 minute chunk on that, and it's going to talk to you about like, hey, this is the most common like signs or symptoms that you're going to get. This is the most, you know, probable like demographics for the people who are going to experience this, so you can build out this like differential diagnosis list. I know some of that like differs between like what, you know, you and I would do in the clinical setting, just because of like who we are and stuff, dude. But like, dude, I tell you what, it's like, it's so cool. Like you can consume all that information, but it's just like dense too. So like hearing something on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? And that's easier to listen to. Like I like that too. But podcaster.
It's like
banging. So I mean, like this stuff.
That's
right?
Great. That's what
super cool.
Like what I wanted with this podcast was like, I noticed like as a coach myself, teaching like a class, right? You get one side of your coach whenever they're like coaching you, but you don't really get like the human like side. You still kind of get that with them, because like you have to build rapport as a coach,
right?
But like you're not like necessarily sitting there talking about like your own life, but you're because if you're a good coach, you should probably be asking more questions than like you're answering.
You should probably be listening more than
100%.
what you're talking. You're like encouraging people to, talk about themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and hear about their day. And
exactly.
as long as you can keep them focused on the, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, we still got to get through these squats, you know, we still got to get through this. So that's hard to balance sometimes.
100%. It's like, wait, it's been 3 minutes. Get back.
Dude, but so this is, you know, like, I don't want to derail you, like, especially if there's like an agenda or things that you wanted to ask or to go through today. But like, that's another super, super cool thing that, like, when you get clinical experience, you'll come to appreciate as well too. A lot of people just, part of the rehab process, we'll call it, is just as much them being able to feel comfortable, like you said, build rapport, than it is like having a pretty, you know, bulletproof, like, you know, badass, like, rehab protocol and like a plan in place. Because if they don't trust you, or they don't feel like they can, you know, hang out with you or talk with you, they're not going to let down their walls, or maybe they won't come back, or you know what I mean? So it's like, you could be the best of the best, but if you can't talk with someone and make them feel comfortable, then dude, what's it matter? Like, how are you going to get your point across? It's like, you could, you know, and that goes to the other end of the spectrum too, is like, you know, not everybody can be the best. And this is how I feel sometimes. It's like, dude, like, I look back on something and I'm like, man, Luke was like, dude, he crushed that. And then I had something similar and I was like, what the heck? I was like, I feel like I sucked, dude. And, you know, but maybe I was at least able to make the person feel comfortable in front of me. And then, like, they can come back the next session. The next session, like, I'm going to have it dialed in, and we're going to, like, I'm going to do something better. Or maybe for them, like, they come in and, like, this happens too. Like, they just need to unload. And it's just, like, verbal. Like, whatever is coming out, it's like they've had a bad day at work, and they've had this, and they had this, and they've had this, and then voila. Like, that is related to their pain experience. So that's part of the rehab process too. Like, you can make someone's knee pain better, or like low back pain that's been chronic, by letting them, like, talk to you about, you know, their job that they're not super, you know, in love with. So let's say they come in on a Thursday and it's been a long week, and you're doing some soft tissue work on them or something, and then they get to just sit there and talk to you for 20 minutes. And then they sit up and they're like, dude, I feel incredible. And you're like, that's awesome. I'm sure it does feel good, but, like, it also would have been cool if we could have did some Jefferson curls out there, some, you know, some like planks, or, you know, whatever. I'm just throwing things out. But for them, like, part of the experience was, like, getting rid of, like, whatever was, like, on, you know, like, holding them down. That baggage. So
that's huge. Like, I even find it with, like, my clients. It's like, not only am I there to, like, just train them, like, I don't know. There's so many aspects to, like, training people, and even, like, doing physical therapy with people, where, like, you have to like, take in the whole person. You can't just separate. This is the physical aspect. This is the mental aspect. Like, this is the emotional aspect. It's like, no, like, you're encountering a whole person, and for, like, personal training, like, their performance is, like, based a lot on how they are emotionally. Like, just like you're saying with, like, pain, the more stressed you are, the more pain you're gonna feel. Like, that's just
I saw this funny like, skit that like, I think he was a PT, or maybe he was like a performance kind of chiro or something like that, chiropractor. But he was doing this skit on Instagram, and basically, like, one of the big things in, like, rehab is, you know, if you're evidence-based, there's a big camp or population of people that are very much, like, anti-manual therapy.
Really?
To an extent, yes. Because it's part, in my opinion, part of it, I can't talk. In my opinion, part of it is hard to prove in randomized controlled trials and all these different types of very, very controlled scientific settings. Because, like, in my opinion, like, if you put your hand on someone and you have good intentions, whether you're mobilizing a joint or you're doing something, like, you are creating an experience, and sometimes people can just, like, there's something that happens there, right? And some of that might not ever be able to be, quote unquote, explained scientifically, right? Because I think
measured,
be measurable to be able to compare to, you know, the other like, independent variable, or, you know, whatever. So basically, there's this camp of people that are very, like, anti-manual therapy, and they're like, no, we know it's all about, like the biopsychosocial approach, and like it's talking about pain and it's talking about the experience, and we know exercise is better than manual therapy, and if you're only doing manual therapy, like you're doing a disservice, and like that's not how people get better, right? So, and like to an extent there's some truth there, right? But I think like and there's a lot of support coming out of it too, where it's like it's a combined approach. So it's very much like you need to probably do some manual therapies, which is soft tissue, you know, if you want to talk about cupping, like there's stuff that's not as well supported in the literature, truthfully, and that's just how it is. But there's also stuff like if you combine that and create an experience, like you're gonna get this end product, this end goal that is like, you know, better than each independent thing by themselves. So long story short, this dude's doing this skit, and he's more so talking about like, hey, this is what I do, and he's like interviewing for like a professional sports team, right? So I mean, you're talking athletes at the highest level who are 100% dialed in on their training, their nutrition, their recovery, like all these things. And the dude, he's acting as like the interviewer, right? So like, you know, the coach or the GM or someone, he's like, hey, so, you know, Mike, what makes you feel qualified to be able to come in here and like, you know, like how do you feel like you're going to be able to add value to our team and help our athletes, you know, like recover and perform better? So, you know, you do like soft tissue or like different things like this. He's like, and the guy, he goes, you know, goes back to him. He's like, no. He goes, it's all about exercise and the biopsychosocial approach. And he goes, I need to talk to people about their experience and about the pain or about the rehab, and then just exercise them. We know that makes them better. Like we know that makes them, you know, the best, that gives them the best outcomes. And he goes, but we already have a strength and conditioning coach. And he goes, no, I promise it's different. It's this and this, and I promise if you just give me the opportunity, we'll be able to do that. And then he's like, you know, we have a strength and conditioning coach. Like, they're already exercising. And then he's like, so he's like, so what else do you do or something like that? And you know, I don't know. He's like, so would you be okay if we like hired a chiropractor or we hired a massage therapist to do the other stuff that you don't want to do? And he's like, no. He goes, I'm kind of like, he's like, I don't get along with those kinds of people. He goes, I kind of just like run my own ship. He's like, I really just like doing the things that I like to do, which is, you know, like exercise and, you know, telling people like how they should, you know, they just need to be mindful about it and know and understand.
Really
and, yeah, it was basically this skit when he's just like, you're kind of like scratching your head and you're thinking about it. It's like, dude, that's kind of how some people are in like the camp. Like if you get so evidence-based or like so into it, like you're neglecting the reality of certain things.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like if you have good intentions or like, you know, manual therapy, it's like it has a time and a place, or there's other things that can impact someone's experience and, you know, the process of rehabilitation outside of like just what's evidence-based. And there's some people, like you'll run into this too. There's some people, they're like, that's sort of who they are and that's their mindset, and they gravitate towards that stuff, and that's cool. And they're probably going to be able to help people as well. And there's also going to be like clients or patients that you interact with who sort of like that stuff. They're just like, dude, like if that doesn't, like the manual therapy doesn't work, like let's just do the exercise. And so they'll gravitate towards someone who kind of like fits their needs. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, but like it just makes me laugh because I don't know, like there's so many avenues of like how to help someone and like how to help people. So like when you're talking about training clients, it's like, hey, you know, let them talk. You know, let it, like give them the direction to work through these exercises and whatnot. But like, you want to be listening and you want to like just be like a human, just like be like a good person to them. And a lot of the times, like as long as you have, you know, good direction in mind and a good program, and you're not doing someone a disservice by any means, like they're going to see results. That stuff's going to compound, man. It's only going to strengthen like your relationship that allows you to have more leverage towards the things that you think might be beneficial or influential in the future.
100%.
So it's like if you know you want to like help someone, they need to just do more exercise. Like right now, it's like maybe you're just weaning them towards that, or you're building the trust so that you can get them to kind of go towards it. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
that's like I've had a few clients for like almost the whole year of me training people, and like I've seen that. It's like I've built this rapport with them, and they trust my judgment, and I think that's huge. Like in the beginning, I was like, I have to know everything. I have to be the best. I have to know all of these different things. I have to know everything about periodization. I have to know everything about like all these different kinds of exercises. And I was like, but I just don't.
Yeah.
So I must not be a good trainer. And then it's like,
it gets in your head.
Yeah, it does. And then like you just gotta. It's more about, and this is something I learned from Will, is that if you like, people are gonna go to the people that like they want. Mm-hmm. You can be like not a very good trainer at all, but if you're really good with people,
if they like you,
they will come to you for training.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't think that's an argument to be a bad trainer,
right?
But like,
there's some reality to it.
Yeah, it's like there's so much to be said about just being a person, like you're saying. There's so much to that.
Yeah, one of the big things that we talk about at Training Nation, like especially more on like the inside. So when we're talking like clinician to clinician, you know, PT to PT, and then also like we have Caleb, who's amazing, and honestly, he'd be cool to have if you know Caleb at all.
I've seen him on the Instagram.
Yeah, he'd come in. He'd be an awesome guest to have on too. He's super amazing, like super smart guy, easy to talk to, and like he would enjoy it. But you know, he's a chiro. But anyways, like when we're kind of in-house talking too, it's like one of our, you know, basically number one things is like treat people like people, treat a person like a person before they're, you know, whatever, or before it's about, you know, like, you know, hey, there's money associated with things, right? They're like, there's all these logistics that factor into it, but like treat a person like a person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like huge on our like core values. And I think it just speaks to what you're trying to put out into the world. And, you know, if you do those kinds of things, like the other stuff will follow.
Oh,
so whether it's like, hey, yeah, you want to be successful, because in a world where we have expensive bills and, you know, we have a cost of living and all this stuff, there are things that have to be paid and there's money that has to be made. But like, as long as you're doing your job, or, you know, you're doing your things and you're putting out good energy into the world, and, you know, you're trying to maybe like let your light shine so that others can kind of see like who you are as a person, for an example, right? And like let that kind of embody like who you are, and like the other stuff follows.
Oh yeah.
And it just like, it comes, and it'll come naturally too.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't mean there's not gonna be hardships and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean, it's like you were saying earlier, like it still takes effort on your part. Like you can be a positive person all you want, but like you also have to like take the initiative to learn, and even learning how like to like communicate with people and make them feel comfortable whenever they come to you. Like that's still a learning curve too. Like there's a learning curve to that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things in like your first year of practice, in my opinion, like reflecting back, like your first year of practice as a provider, as a clinician, is going to be more about how you communicate with people than it is like how good or bad you are at like what you're doing, even though your intention is never to be bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you're still like you gotta learn, right? So like you're gonna screw up, you're gonna make mistakes, but it's like, how do you bounce back from that? But also it's like, how are you communicating with someone in the process while that happens?
Oh yeah.
So, and also, how are you communicating with yourself as you go through those trials? Because like you're probably, and like, I mean, I experience it all the time, probably weekly, maybe daily. It used to feel like daily for sure, but like imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like getting in your head and you're being so self-critical. So like, you know, how are you communicating with yourself about what you're going through? And sometimes it's easy to be your own worst critic and to beat yourself up and to hold yourself to these standards. And sometimes this even goes back to like how much we can consume now. When you can consume from all these great minds, or like what you see on social media, like, oh, this is the cream of the crop, you know, like this person's life is fine and dandy and they're really freaking smart and they're like, they're awesome. And like, man, look, they have all these success stories with their clients, or like, you know, they're rehabbing all these people and they're all getting back to sport and, you know, whatever you want to say. But it's like, it makes you kind of feel like yourself like, well, I tell you what, like, I didn't have that today. Like, you know, like this person is like, you know, and they live in California. So it's always, 70 and sunny and it doesn't rain there, and I live in Ohio and it's dreary. So when I have a bad day and it's like the crappy cloudy gray overcast, it only even makes it worse. It's like you just start getting in your head about these things. And
straight facts.
Yeah, dude, communication is huge. So being able to like work through that, like in your first year of practice, man, like I think you'll be great, because like you're super personable person from like the time that I've been able to like hang out with you and chat with you, and even to see you in here like working with your clientele and stuff, man. So, and I'm sure like you like knowing what you've accomplished in Taekwondo, even from like a small perspective on the outside looking in, like I said earlier, I don't know what it all entails. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know it's something that you've been on the journey of doing since you were, just like a little guy probably, right? When you started Taekwondo.
Like 10 years old,
yeah. So like, that, to stick with something with that consistency and continue to like move the needle kind of tells you something about a person, So like that probably speaks to who you are and your character and what integrity you're going to take elsewhere in the other avenues that you choose to pursue. So like, dude, I feel like, you'll have great success with it, but you got to be kind to yourself too at the same time.
100%.
Because everybody's their own worst critic, I think. And if you're not, then maybe we do need to take time to reflect and think about what we can do better. Because that's how you have that growth mindset. Because can't always do everything perfect, right? Yeah. But you also don't beat yourself up. So and I try to teach myself that too. And I've heard that from a lot of good podcasts and mentors, and more so mentors, going through some of the like education and stuff that I did, like through PT school, and then like I did a residency after I graduated as well, and and I worked in like another clinic after that for another year before I came back up this way, kind of where we're at now. So
I was gonna ask you, how'd you get like into physical therapy? Like, what was your undergrad in, and then like what got you into physical therapy?
Yeah, so basically, like if we're gonna be honest and true, which I think is important to say, I kind of grew up, I kind of have a cheesy story of like, hey, I was hurt and all this stuff, right? But I was like always hurt growing up. I don't know why. I don't know if that was like for a reason. Felt like I was a pretty athletic person growing up, but I always had nagging injuries or broken bones from the time I was like 9 or 10 years old, all the way through like high school and stuff.
Dang.
So I had done rehab and PT multiple times. The biggest one I had elbow reconstruction, Tommy John surgery, when I was in high school. So tore my UCL, full thickness tear, and that was like my big just like, moment where I remember I tore it in wrestling. So I wrestled growing up, but I originally hurt it multiple times in baseball. So I think I had some damage to the ligament itself, but I also had an associated like bony injury, like so my medial epicondyle, that little bump on the inside, kind of like fractured off. From like throwing, and it was more of like an avulsion fracture, or what they call like little leaguer's elbow, and that kind of happened multiple times. And then I blew it out in wrestling is when I really knew. But I remember I was like 15, I think, or maybe 16, and I got like my parents got the call after we had the MRI, and they're like, "Yep, like full thickness tear. Like if he wants to continue to do baseball or other sports, like he's probably gonna need to have surgery." And like, dude, I cried.
Yeah.
Like, it felt devastating. So, it was like, man, that's a long process, and was able to like deal with that, I think, pretty well, like for being a 16-year-old. Like I had a lot of other good things going on in my life, so I can't say it was like the worst thing in the world. But that was like my big exposure to PT and rehab, because it's a super long process. You're talking 12 to 18 months probably. Like a lot of times like ACL reconstruction, which people hear about, which is very common, like it's long, it's gruesome. People are returning to sport around like 10 to 12 months typically. Tommy John's probably closer to like 12 months, I would say. But then they even say that 12 to 24 month process is really like you're still probably working on like gaining velocity, and you're still working on like trying not to be like sore and whatnot. So like I was learning about all this stuff. So I was in PT for months and months and months. That was like my big exposure. And really I thought about like going into physical therapy then, but but I also enjoyed like math and science, and like I had good grades growing up and when I was in school, and like it's so hard. It's like, man, what do you want to do with your life? So I like had all these different thoughts, right? I graduated 8th grade, my 8th grade graduation. Like you kind of like put your picture up on the screen when you're doing your walkthrough. It's like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up or whatever, right? And I either put a pharmacist or like an orthodontist, and I couldn't remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I went, had all these thoughts and stuff, and I wanted to be like either an orthodontist, I wanted to be a pharmacist, a physical therapist, or like a PA, a physician assistant. Those were kind of like my 4 things that I thought I wanted to do growing up. And growing up in Northwest Ohio, Findlay was nearby, and there was also another school called Ohio Northern University, which is in Ada, and that's like local to me. They were in the same like sports conference for our high school teams.
Oh, okay.
So like they had good pharmacy programs, and one of my best friends growing up, his dad was a pharmacist, and like we kind of joked to each other, we were always gonna be. His name's Austin. We always were like, dude. Like we're both going to go to pharmacy school, and we're going to be roommates at Ohio Northern, where your dad went to pharmacy school, and it's going to be awesome. We're just going to like continue to be best buddies, and like we're going to be pharmacists and like do all this stuff. And we're just going to like do the journey. And so I actually was like weighing my options, and I applied to pharmacy school, and that's all I applied for. So I applied to Ohio Northern, and then Findlay had a program as well. So they do a 0 to 6, which is like, hey, you come in straight out of high school, and if you get a C. Like, when they offer it to you, all you have to do is like get the grades, and then you graduate with your PharmD or like your pharmacy degree in 6 years. You don't have to do X amount of years and then apply to get in. It's like they're taking you on good merit and basically like having you do like in-person interviews and stuff like that to be able to get a seat in the program.
Yeah.
So I applied to Findlay and Ohio Northern, and I was accepted into both. For some reason, I felt like I was called in my life to go to Findlay, even though my best friend also got accepted to Ohio Northern, and we were basically like on track to like fulfill this like kind of running joke, but we were also serious about it for a couple years.
Right.
So he went to Ohio Northern for pharmacy. One of my other best friend from school named Kurt, like I went to the public school, and then we also had like a private Catholic school as well too. So like I had a kind of like one of my best buddies from each school. They both went to Ohio Northern, which is crazy. So my best friends went to school, like, so all my familiarity, right? And I like left this path for some reason that I like was like, it all fell into place. Like I was accepted, and like this was kind of like what we were talking about doing. I felt called to go to Findlay. So I went to Findlay for their like PharmD program, or like pharmacy program. And I met my wife, Kirsten, and she's a pharmacist. So I met her in the program, and then also like we did like Res Life and stuff, which is like RA, like for people who live on campus. Resident assistant and like resident directors and like all that stuff. So like I was able to really get to know her and like a couple of my other good buddies from there. But yeah, so I went to Findlay, and then I didn't know anybody from my class who went to Findlay. Like, I didn't have a single person in my grade from my school who went to that university.
Dang.
So I just went in, new place, like, I'm personable, I can make friends, and like that's fine. Had a random roommate, he was a good dude, but like just felt for some reason called to go to Findlay. And like speeding up that process, I know this is kind of a long-winded answer to like, hey, like how did you come about this? I was like, might as well, like, I'm gonna give you all the bits and pieces.
That's what we're here for.
So yeah, I went to Findlay the first like year of school. I would say compared to the experience I had growing up in school was completely different. Finding yourself, living on your own, doing these different things. Partied a little bit, I'll be honest, right? Like, I'm not ashamed of that, but like looking back, like, I had some fun. And like in that time, I also, for some reason, I really was like, like school's whatever. Like, but I also could have very much applied myself better. Okay, and I say this not to be, this is just me being transparent. Like, still got good grades. Still, like, like it just wasn't as good as I probably could have, or I didn't hold myself to the standard that I did previously. So I'm going through this and working through the pharmacy program. It's good. Classes are going well. I'm passing classes. I'm still doing good. Lots of A's, lots of B's, which were foreign to me at the time, but getting used to it. A C, got a C. That was weird. And, you know, I'm going through the stuff. I'm just like, I mean, like, this is what it is. You know, you have to apply yourself more so than others in certain topics.
Yeah,
but
right.
Come around second year, into my first semester back as a sophomore in college. So I'm like a year and a half into the program. I started working at like a Rite Aid as like a pharmacy tech, like technician, just getting like more exposure to the field. Dude, I hated it.
Yeah?
Hated it. I love people. I love the people I worked with. I always try to be a good person and like, you know, have positive impact. But like I was in a pharmacy and I was like counting pills and like, you know, putting them in bottles. And I remember like vividly being so anxious and nervous to like go up to like the little like intercom thing, like when people go through the drive-through and being like, what's your date of birth? And then like say it, but you can't hear them. And so you gotta ask them like 3 times in a row, and like you still can't hear them, and then you get even more nervous.
Yeah.
And you're just like, now all you're thinking about is how you can't hear them, and they're still telling you. Yeah. And then they just get all pissed off, and you're just like, I'm so sorry. Give me like one more time. And so like just in general, like I mean, it was good. It wasn't like that. It wasn't that stressful, but I just realized that like I just didn't feel like it was for me. And at this point, like I had started dating my wife like sophomore year of college, and she's a pharmacist. And I think, you know, like that was my taste of quote unquote pharmacy. But I had shadowed like, and I've seen it in other places too. And I think there potentially would have been a place for me somewhere in different types of settings, different types of pharmacy. But like I just really felt like it just wasn't for me, and I had a hard time kind of like coming to that understanding, like coping with it, I guess, because I was like, well, man, I put in all this work to try and get here, and I like got this seat into the program, and it's just hard when you're like 19 years old, and you're like it feels like it's the end of the world, like if it doesn't feel like it's right, but it's, I mean, that's so far from the truth, right? Like you're 19, like you could mess up tenfold. You could be like 35 and still like, I mean, that's like young to an extent, right? Like I mean, like it's never too late. You know, people are, you know, making a name for themselves or fulfilling their purpose when they're 50, 60, 70 sometimes. So basically found, you know, like all this internal struggle, and I was like, dude, I don't think I want to do this. So I dropped out of the program, and at that point there was just a lot of like prerequisites and stuff and whatever. I was like in the health field. So basically I'm in health sciences. And then they also had a physical therapy program there, which is a 3+3 at Findlay. So 3 years undergrad, and then you can get in straight 3 years to grad school. So I kind of was like, hey, I think I'm gonna like shift gears and focus towards this. And dude, I mean, like the rest was history from there. Like, you know, it was still troubling, but it was like, dude, pre-PT, that's kind of like my route. I was pre-physical therapy emphasis in a health sciences degree. And I was on the track to basically do all of my prerequisites and required coursework within the first 3 years that I could apply to grad school a year early and try and get in. Whereas part of that cohort was already like accounted for. So just like they did that direct program for pharmacy where it's like, hey, we're going to give so many seats to these high schoolers. They did the same thing in physical therapy. So like a couple of my buddies, like one of my good best friends too, his name's Christian, who I met in college. He amazing guy, super awesome. He was accepted straight out of high school. So he was in this 3+3, but he was just like, dude, I mean, he's just living his best life and he's already in. And like, that's the, you know, I could have been on that plan. I'm thinking to myself.
So
I went.
And then you get in your own head.
Yep. So I went like pre-PT and, you know, did all the things, and I was trying to like shadow and do all the right stuff to like set myself up to, you know, like be a good applicant, and applied to physical therapy school. You know, I was lucky I was able to get in. So I got into the PT program on that 3+3 journey. So after my junior year, went straight into grad school that next fall and started, and then 3 years of grad school and went through that, and it was awesome, man. It was great. Yeah, I just fell in love with just the coursework, and it just clicked. It just seemed right. And there's things you're gonna like more than others, don't get me wrong, dude, but it was like it was super enjoyable compared to other like, you know, odds and ends things. And when I was, you know, having that like struggle and kind of like with myself, I was taking like organic chemistry in undergrad, and I was like, dude, like, it's like I liked chemistry in high school, but like I guess I just didn't really get it, you know, or like, you know, I loved math, like, but like physics was cool. Like I actually liked physics in college and stuff, but like when I was taking like anatomy and stuff, I was like, this is right. Like, like I'm so much more invested in like the human body and like this like aspect of it. And then also how can I apply that to my day-to-day interactions with people rather than like, you know, pharmacy was a little different than that. So that's how I came to like go the physical therapy route. I know that was a super long-winded answer, and I don't know like if we're still doing okay on time. Like if you're good.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, we can go.
Yeah. How much time you got?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I gotta check my phone.
So
make sure it's not.
You sure?
Dying.
Okay. Yeah. If you're like, hey man, we gotta wrap things.
No,
just tell me.
No,
just
tell
good.
Me.
But I went through the grad school program, and like, dude, ever since I got in, and like it was just like a big weight off my shoulders when I was accepted into that program. It's like things just felt right, and just tried to apply myself as best as possible to work through that and get to where I'm at. And that's, you know, long story to say like, hey, that's how I'm a physical therapist today. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade it for the world for the opportunity that I'm able to have with people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't mean every day's easy, right? But
right. No. I mean, it's like that with anything. The quote of like, if you like your job, you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, yeah, but there's still days where it sucks. Like,
yeah. I mean, if you find special places like where I'm at now, dude, I'll be honest, it's like I have all days are good days. Right. You know, like there can be something you can find, but like compared to like how it could be, like I am like truthfully grateful for the opportunity that I have and like the position that I'm in. So I take every day I'm able to help people. So I think that's an amazing thing. I'm able to express my passion in my craft and like hang out with people and just like form relationships, and people find value in that. They feel better in that. They rehab better, and then also like we're supporting each other. So like the fact that I can do something like this for a career is like dude, that's sweet.
Right.
So yeah. What about like PTA for you then? Like was there something that like directly like brought you to it?
I think
you said your fiance was like, hey, you should do it.
Well, so in high school, my like plan was, okay, I'll go get my associates of like just general science with like a focus in anatomy or like biology or something like that, and then go get my undergrad in like exercise science, sports physiology, something like that. And then I was like, kinesiology, any of those, and I was like, then maybe I can go and get my DPT, and it was kind of a rough idea. And then I was a missionary for 2 years. I really only was planning on doing it for one, and then I just decided to do it for two. Yeah. So where I met my fiance actually.
Cool.
And
that's awesome, dude.
But and I was like, oh, I can do personal training. It's kind of in the same like vein. And I've done martial arts for 12 years, and that kind of really got me into like the personal training space. And like Will, I've known him for 12 years just doing martial arts, and I knew that he was a trainer. And so I asked him how he got certified because I was interested in the field. And this was all in high school. And then I got into that, and I actually, this is probably really silly, but the reason I wanted to go into physical therapy is I found this guy on YouTube who was a strength and conditioning coach and physical therapist. Okay. And I was like, dude, I have like an idea in my head who it is. Athlean X. Yeah. Jeff Cavalier, baby. Yeah, that's the one.
Dude, he was like kind of the GOAT. Yeah, he was like the pioneer in some of that stuff, man.
Yeah, so
he had like accessible content. Yeah, which made you like, dude, this is sweet.
Yeah, so like I understood things like internal rotation and abduction, adduction, like all these like terms, and I was like, this is cool stuff. Like I love this, and it made me fall in love with training even more. Yeah, and I was like, I would love to be like, I'd love to do a similar thing. Right. And it evolved from there, obviously, but then I came back from being a missionary, and I was like, I don't know, I would like to, like I started dating my now fiance like soon after I was done, and I was like, I'd like to get married and like start that and all that stuff, and I was was like, I gotta like get myself a job, like a big boy job, you know? And I was like, I just don't think that like spending like all the money and time into like furthering that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm already certified as a personal trainer, like, and I understand this to an extent. And so I was like, I'll just do that. And then she was like, I think you should really consider doing it. And I was like, okay. I kind of like started the process and
pros and cons and just kind of like weighing your options.
And so then I started it, and man, I'm loving it. Like I never like experienced physical therapy. My brother, the only experience that I ever had of physical therapy growing up was like my brother, he broke his femur.
Okay.
He was run over by a car and broke his femur.
Yeah, that's intense.
So he had to go through rehab for that.
That's what happened. Obviously, if you're run over by a car, it can be substantially
much worse. And so he had to go and get rehab for that.
Yeah.
And that was like the only experience that I really had of physical therapy. It's like my family was all like, I was like, yeah, physical therapy would be cool. And they were like, yeah, that's cool, because they had to like experience it too.
And sometimes also like a general understanding, like sometimes people hear like physical therapy and they're like, oh yeah, like, like what's your brother's name?
Vincent.
Vincent?
Yeah.
With a T on the end? Or no? Vincent?
Call him Vinny.
Okay, Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny.
Okay, so Vinny. Yeah, physical therapy, when Vinny broke his leg.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, oh, that's people, like when they get surgery, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But like people also just think, they're like, yeah, cool.
Oh my gosh.
They're just like, cool, physical therapy. Yeah. Like when people break bones or get surgeries.
Yeah, right?
And it's like, more than that.
Okay, yeah, I guess. And that's kind of like, I knew it was more than that because of like Jeff Cavalier going through all the like anatomy and everything that he understood there.
Just want to make sure. I'm getting a lot of spam calls. Dude, my bad. I should have turned that off.
That's fine. I always get spam calls are the worst. But I understood that it was more than that. And then like even, I think not having shadowed Dr. Luke actually, I think I probably would, I don't know, I'd probably be more apprehensive about it now.
Yeah.
But like understanding that like I could do something like performance physical therapy, I was like, this is huge. Like there's so much more than just like you get a joint replacement, you get your total shoulder and you go through rehab for that or whatever. It's like, it's way more than that. It's like, and so that,
I think it's a good like stepwise thing as well, where it's like you're thinking yes or no, and it's like also so like PTA versus like DPT, because like, dude, I got tons of student loan debt, and like I went to a private school, like good, I did everything in 6 years, like maybe I saved a year, but you know, I wouldn't change anything. There's too much that's happened, and you know, it all happens for a reason. But like, you know, if you're having those thoughts, or there's other ways to go about doing it more like fiscally responsible, and you know, taking that step, it's like, hey, you can still continue to train clients, you can still continue to do what you love, you can invest into something that you think you have a future in, but it's also like, hey, it's a 2-year investment versus a multi-year investment. It's going to be a little bit more advantageous for you time-wise, like to be able to leverage your time and continue to do the other stuff that you enjoy doing and providing value in. And then it's like, hey, once you get that, like, what can you make it? So like as a PTA, like you'll have a lot of opportunity for sure, and there's also like, you know, take it from there. If you wanted to get a DPT afterwards, like you can do that. And so like actually where I went to school, so like Finley, they actually have a PTA to DPT bridge.
I've been looking at that actually.
Bridge program. So it's like, that's always something that you can do. And like maybe you'll get it and you'll be like, dude, no, this is perfect, this is what I love. Or you'll be a PTA, maybe you'll do it part-time and then you'll train more, or you know what I mean? It's like the opportunity is like endless to an extent, and we're like, you can shape it and mold it to be what you want.
Straight facts. And
no doubt.
That's kind of the plan for now, is like, see where it goes, see at the end of this 2 years, like see how having PTA, like having that degree and that license, and then seeing about actually going and doing that bridge program at Finley actually. It's like,
there's probably going to be some other like more hybrid options too that they're coming up with. So the PTA to DPT bridge is good. It's going to be, you know, like more like weekend intensives and stuff like that. But then there's even places Like Baylor University was one that kind of like pioneered it, and you know they had like DPT programs that were more like even more remote, where you would fly in almost for like quarterly, like hardcore like sessions and like testings and like manual like hands-on labs and skills checks and stuff.
Right.
Where like that's even another way to do it. I think BG was talking about doing something like that through Evidence in Motion was a place. I haven't really looked into much of this since I was I talked to a couple people when I was like finishing grad school and stuff. But yeah, like Bowling Green State, like so they would be a public university too. So like cost wise, like they might have something set up right now where they do that.
Yeah,
but that'd be something to look into.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because I get these ads on Instagram for these programs. Because I clicked on one.
Well, now you're gonna get even more because they're hearing us talk about it, so it's just gonna pop up on your feed.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'll get like instead of like the 3 that I normally get, it's gonna be like 7.
Yeah.
It's like because I clicked on one time, and it's like, oh, now that's all I get on my feed.
Ad. Yeah, every ad is, yep.
Gosh, yeah.
Sure.
The internet.
Yeah. Where do you like foresee yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years?
Yeah, like what's ideal for you? Or like, do you have any thoughts on that?
In 5 years, I would love to be either like finishing the DPT program, like bridge, or already through it. Like I would love that. I think for some of them you have to have a bachelor's though, so I'd have to like go get that. But
yeah, you could do that online while you're treating like as a PTA too. You just take online like community college like courses to be able to fulfill like those prereqs and stuff. Yeah. So like that's an option too.
I think.
But you'll be. But what else? Like what else? Like life wise.
Life wise?
Yeah, not even like I just kind of meant like all encompassing. Which is a loaded question.
That's a very loaded question.
Yeah. All encompassing.
Well, so my fiance and I are getting married. We're getting married this summer.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
In July, and then and we said probably wait at least a year before we start having kids and stuff. Because she's in school right now as well for early childhood education. Okay. So give her time to finish that.
So she's going to school and lives in Illinois right now. Okay.
So long distance. It's good stuff.
That's tough. Yeah. I can't really even relate. Like I was fortunate enough to be with my wife and we were dating through almost all of it, besides a week here, a couple weeks here, like maybe a month, and I guess a couple months maybe when I was on like one of my last rotations in North Carolina, and she was still doing some stuff on rotations up in Ohio. But yeah, I mean like that's completely different. So props to you guys. That's tough.
It is tough, man. But yeah, the 5 years, man, that's so long away.
You guys want to be here in Ohio? You want to be in?
Yeah, we don't know.
Illinois?
We for now we'll be in Ohio for a couple years, probably 5 years. Yeah, is a good estimate. But yeah,
just thoughts would be like if you do ever plan on or think it's something that you want to do, getting like your DPT. There are certain states that have more limiting practice acts compared to other states and stuff too. So just like food for thought. Be like, oh hey, like if you like dry needling, certain places don't let you do that.
Really?
Yeah. So
is Ohio like direct access? You have direct? Oh really? Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that because I was like, I know Dr. Luke. Whenever I shadowed him, he wasn't like. Sometimes he would accept like insurance, and other times he wouldn't. And so it's like, I wonder if that's because of direct access or if it's not. And so from what I understood, there was.
Yeah, so the way that we do it is like, so we're an out-of-network practice, so we don't accept insurance. Okay. We do everything either like cash-based, like quote-unquote cash-based. But it's like cash, checks, cards, whatever. Then you can also use your HSA or FSA. Okay. So like health savings account and stuff like that, which allows people to use more like employer benefits to be able to access us as an out-of-network practice.
Okay, maybe that's
and performance therapy. Yeah. But like we also will do sometimes like you can utilize like our services, and it's still a service. So you can submit us to your insurance to see if they'll give you reimbursement. But like that just varies from like some places will be like, nope, like you chose to go out of network to do this. So like even though they showed us what they did and what that would typically look like if they were in network, like we're not going to give you any money. Or some people will be like, oh cool, here's 50% reimbursement. Like here was the cost that you paid them, and then they showed us what they did. And so since you have an insurance plan with us, we're going to give you like half that. Like sweet, good for you. Like, but most of the time, that's the only way that you're going to be able to get like the benefits of your insurance would be through a reimbursement process, because we are out of network and we identify as that. So we don't take any insurances. Yeah. So but it's like, dude, it's hard to figure that stuff out as you like get into practice and stuff. There's like so much logistics. Yeah. For you as a PTA right away, it'll be a little less like intense, but it's still like huge. It's still there's a lot.
The whole insurance thing,
it's tough. Yeah, it is. But that's part of the world that we're in. So, and
especially medical.
Yep, being in performance therapy now, the reason that we do what we do is because we like to just impact people and serve them and love on them as best as possible. And we think that's through this model, which is removed from some of the like typical healthcare model that can be very restrictive at times.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they're like dictating how your care goes.
Yeah.
Or it's like, hey, you know, like I'm working with Mike in the clinic, and you know, I think we need to continue helping his shoulder become more stable in an overhead press position, or like when he's locking out, you know, like a punch or some kind of combination. And insurance is like, nah man, he's doing his like daily activities, like you get 2 visits. And then you're like so then like, you know, you're limited in that. Right. So that's what we kind of do, feeling passionate about performance therapy, is like we're trying to minimize all of that, mitigate everything that we can be restricted by, so we can use our skill set to help you achieve like your dream outcomes and continue to do the stuff that allows you to be happy and fulfilled in the communities that you love to be a part of.
Right. Like to actually help them. Sometimes, like you're saying, my professor will go over like, oh, this is how it used to be versus how it is now, and I'm like, it's how do people
always changing?
It's like, what? How are these people going to recover like in the best way possible? We can't give them the care that they need.
Yep.
It's like, gosh,
it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like I've been in that model and I've like followed it, and you know sometimes there's people who flourish in that model, and I think, you know, some individuals, like that's where they want to be. They want to show up. They want to work. They want to, you know, help their people. They want to clock out. They want to go home. Or like, you know, like they just fit well in that structure.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, because I think that like it needs those people, because I think it is advantageous as a net, like as a whole, or like it's a net positive.
Absolutely.
Because people need to be able to utilize their insurance benefits if they have it, because it's a little bit more affordable. Not always. Like sometimes people get hit with like crazy bills, like without even knowing about it on the back end, or you know, like they're not knowing what's going on. But like there are times where it's more affordable for them to use their insurance benefits and go through that system. And
100%.
You know, maybe it's not the absolute best care they could be receiving, but at the same time, like it's what's appropriate. And is it going to be beneficial? Yeah, like there's a good chance. Like it's you know, if they have a good rehab team and they got a great PTA like you, and you know they have a good PTUs, like, you know, setting a solid like plan of care, like dude, that's use that. It's amazing. And like if there's an opportunity for someone who either wants something different in the performance therapy realm, or they want to be able to, like they didn't have a good experience in that setting and they want to try something a little bit different, where it's a little bit more personable, individualized, always kind of one-on-one with us, that's sort of what we specialize in.
Right.
So, but that's not me like hammering on the typical model, because I do think there's net positives. It's just a little frustrating depending on who you are, where you're at, and the stipulations that they put on you. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Caught on my watch band.
It happens. That's a good way to look at it. It's a very balanced view. I think in general, having a balanced view of things is usually the best. So yeah, it's like you were saying earlier. You were talking about something and you were like giving the nuances of it, and I was like, You're right. Yeah. Like, I was like, yeah, you got a good balanced view. I like it.
That's how it is, man. It's like you gotta be able to see both ends of the spectrum. I feel like I've
Yeah.
said that word multiple times in our conversation, but yeah, it's like you gotta be able to analyze that and see what's happening. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Dude,
I appreciate like you came up to me the other day and you were like, dude, you going to school for physical therapy or something? And I was like, yeah. And you're like, just let me know if you ever need any help with anything. I was like, dude, this guy.
Or just the
this guy's
chat,
awesome.
like at least I could try and help.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know, like if you're like, hey man, can you help me with this? And it's like, I'll try. It doesn't mean I'll succeed, but I'll at least give it a shot.
It's the best anybody can do. It's just try.
Yeah,
But I appreciate that, and I've seen you around the gym, and like you were working out a few times in Bay 1 over there, and just by watching you, I learned a lot. I was like,
Thanks, man.
you did like these Bulgarian split squats, but you added like a little bit of like internal rotation to
with it,
and I was like, that's genius.
And
I never thought of that.
I probably stole that from someone else.
Yeah,
like,
right, but
dude,
like-
it's so hard to be like, original or
Oh
like,
my gosh,
like
yeah.
where did it come from? It's like someone's already done it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
It's movement.
that's what it's all about, dude. Like picking stuff up from people. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate that. I appreciate your positive attitude and everything.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's been good talking to you.
Dude, heck yeah.
Yeah, I like your outlook on things.
Thanks,
It's
man.
great.
Yeah. Look forward to maybe being on in the future.
Yeah, dude.
Next time, episode 2.
Episode 2 with Dr. Gaige.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, cool. Well,
Thanks, brother.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed your